Have you ever felt her pull away just when you thought everything was perfect? The silence, the subtle distance. The moments she ignores you, it's not what you think. Sometimes the woman who loves you the most will push you away, not out of hate, but because her heart is testing yours. She wants to know if you'll stay, if you'll fight, if you truly see her for who she is. Today, I'm going to reveal the hidden signals she can't control, the ones that scream love even when her actions seem cold. Watch closely, because understanding this could change everything about how you see love and connection. And before we dive in, comment below your location and hit that subscribe button. Join our journey into the mind of love, desire, and truth. You've probably noticed it before. The moments when a woman seems distant, almost deliberately so, even though you know there's a connection between you. At first, it can feel confusing, frustrating, or even painful. You might think, why is she pulling away? Doesn't she care? But here's the paradox of female affection sometimes. The very act of ignoring you is a sign of deep love. It sounds counterintuitive, but when you understand the psychology behind it, everything starts to make sense. Women often unconsciously use subtle behaviors to test the strength of a man's emotional presence. It's not about playing games or manipulation. It's about security, trust, and emotional calibration. From a psychological perspective, pulling away is a way to observe how a man responds under pressure, how patient he can be, and whether he remains steady in the face of emotional ambiguity. When a woman ignores you, she's watching, she's measuring, and she's quietly asking, do you see me for who I truly am? This isn't just speculation. It's rooted in evolutionary psychology. Historically, women have relied on cues of consistency, reliability, and emotional resilience when evaluating potential partners. In many ways, the modern social dynamic is an extension of this age-old pattern. Ignoring, when combined with other subtle signs, becomes a tool for understanding a man's true character. It's her way of saying, without words, I care enough to see if your love is real, and the signals are rarely straightforward. You might notice a text left unread for hours, a delayed reply, or a quiet withdrawal in conversation. At the same time, she might laugh at your jokes when you're not looking, glance your way when she thinks you're distracted, or show fleeting warmth that contradicts her outward distance. These micro behaviors, though easy to overlook, are rich with meaning. They're the language of emotion, and if you're attentive, they tell a story that words often cannot. The challenge for many men is understanding this without overreacting. It's natural to feel a sting of rejection or confusion when someone you care about seems distant. But the key is perspective. Her actions are not necessarily about you failing or about a lack of love. Instead, they are about her internal process, her way of assessing, protecting, and valuing her emotional investment. When you approach this with awareness, patience, and self-control, you gain insight not only into her psychology, but also into the nature of attachment itself. In these moments of apparent distance, men who remain grounded display qualities that women are innately drawn to: steadiness, confidence, and emotional intelligence. Your response is what she's truly observing. If you panic, chase, or overcompensate, it signals insecurity. If you remain calm, self-aware, and engaged without neediness, it signals maturity. Love, at its core, is as much about character as it is about chemistry. The woman who pulls away is often seeking that deeper alignment, a reassurance that her emotional risk is met with strength rather than desperation. It's also important to recognize the philosophical depth behind this behavior. Human relationships are rarely linear. Emotions are layered, complex, and often contradictory. Love is not just the sum of grand gestures and constant presence. It is also the quiet, subtle test of patience and understanding. When a woman steps back, she is giving you space to show your commitment. Not through words, but through consistent behavior. In a world where instant gratification dominates, these moments of quiet challenge reveal the substance beneath surface attraction. They separate fleeting interest from genuine devotion. By learning to interpret these signs, you begin to understand love in a more profound way. It's about reading between the lines, Noticing the small gestures that reveal truth and responding with conscious awareness rather than instinctive reaction. You start to see that love is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it whispers through absence, through delay, and through the moments she chooses to remain just out of reach. And in that whisper, there is depth, there is intention, and there is meaning that only a patient, perceptive partner can recognize. So, as you reflect on this, remember, the paradox of female affection is not a puzzle to solve with force or frustration. It's a mirror reflecting the qualities that women value most: patience, steadiness, and the ability to honor emotions that are not always easy to express. If you learn to embrace this paradox, to listen with your awareness and respond with measured presence, you unlock a level of connection that many never experience. You see love not as a transaction, but as a nuanced, living dynamic that evolves over time. In the end, the message is simple, yet powerful. When she pulls away, observe, don't react. Respect her space, notice her subtle cues, and rise to the level of emotional intelligence she's quietly testing. The woman who ignores you is often the one whose heart is quietly, deeply invested. Recognize this, respond wisely, and you will not just witness love, you will cultivate it. And never forget this: love is not always loud, but it is always intentional. When she steps back, she's not leaving you, she's inviting you to prove that your presence, patience, and understanding are worthy of her heart. That is where true connection begins. Have you ever noticed that the very woman who seems distant, the one who pulls away at times, often still finds subtle ways to connect with you? It's almost as if she's sending a message in code, a language of gestures, glances, and half smiles that few men truly understand. This is where the psychology of love becomes fascinating. When a woman ignores you but continues to show indirect attention, it is rarely a sign of disinterest. In fact, it can be one of the clearest indicators of emotional attachment, a quiet declaration of love that she may not even consciously recognize herself. What's happening here is a kind of emotional calibration. Women are constantly assessing not just your words, but your actions, your patience, and your ability to remain steady. Ignoring is not about punishment, it is a subtle method of testing the waters. Will you remain consistent? Will you respect her space? Will you demonstrate that your care is unwavering, even when it is not immediately reciprocated? These questions are never stated outright, yet they are deeply embedded in human relationships. This dynamic taps into what psychologists call the challenge-response effect. When a woman pulls back, it creates a small tension, a momentary void that encourages the man to reflect, to respond with awareness rather than impulsivity. It's a kind of psychological pressure test, designed not to create conflict, but to reveal character. She wants to know if your affection is strong enough to survive a pause, if your emotional commitment is resilient enough to withstand ambiguity. At the same time, these behaviors are accompanied by subtle cues that are easy to overlook. Perhaps she laughs at a joke you didn't expect her to hear, or she observes your actions from a distance, quietly interested in how you handle the world. These micro signals are the language of attention and desire, speaking louder than words ever could. They are small windows into the emotional truth that lies beneath her composed exterior. The key for men is to recognize these signals without misinterpreting them. It's tempting to panic or to overcompensate when faced with distance. Many men believe that love must always be overt, immediate, and demonstrative. But real love often resides in the subtleties, in the patience shown during quiet moments, in the trust established through consistency, and in the awareness of emotions that are expressed indirectly. Ignoring, paradoxically, can be a form of intimacy, a way for a woman to invite you into the deeper layers of her heart. From a philosophical perspective, this behavior reflects a universal principle of human relationships. Value is often revealed through restraint. When affection is constant and immediate, it can lose its depth and significance. When it is measured, even delayed, it encourages reflection, observation, and appreciation. In these gaps, in these small spaces of ambiguity, the quality of love is revealed. How you respond in these moments defines not just your relationship, but your own capacity for understanding, empathy, and emotional resilience. It's also important to recognize that this is not about power or manipulation. Ignoring in this context is a natural mechanism of emotional assessment. It's a way for women to navigate vulnerability, to protect their hearts while still signaling interest. For men who can read these signs, who can discern love behind the veil of distance, there is a profound opportunity for connection. You begin to understand that love is not always immediate gratification or constant attention. It is often a measured dance of presence, patience, and insight. This understanding transforms the way you approach relationships. Instead of reacting with insecurity, you respond with conscious awareness. You notice the glances, the delayed replies, the moments of subtle attention, and you recognize them for what they truly are. Signs of care and emotional investment. The woman who seems to ignore you is often the one who is most deeply engaged. Watching closely to see if your attention is steady, sincere, and consistent. In this context, patience becomes more than a virtue. It becomes a signal of strength. The man who can remain calm, confident, and attentive without neediness demonstrates the very qualities she is seeking. He shows that his love is not contingent on constant validation, that his commitment can endure ambiguity, and that he is capable of appreciating the depth and complexity of her emotions. This is how attraction deepens, how connection solidifies, and how genuine love takes root. So, as you navigate these moments, remember to look beyond surface appearances. When she ignores you, pay attention to the subtle, indirect signals she is sending. Observe without reacting impulsively. Respond with steady presence and emotional intelligence. Understand that her behavior, though seemingly contradictory, is a reflection of care, attachment, and an invitation to meet her at a deeper level. In the end, the lesson is clear: love is not always loud. It often whispers, hides, and tests. The woman who seems distant is frequently the one whose heart is quietly, intensely connected. Recognize this truth, respond with awareness, and you will transform ambiguity into understanding, distance into intimacy, and subtle signals into lasting emotional bonds. And never forget this: when she ignores you, it is not a rejection. It is a challenge, a test, and a reflection of her hidden affection. How you rise to that challenge will determine not only the strength of your relationship, but also the depth of your own emotional mastery. So far, we've explored the paradox of female affection and the hidden meaning behind subtle signs when she ignores you. Now comes the most important part: how a man should respond. This is where understanding becomes action, where perception turns into power, and where your own emotional intelligence is tested. Because love, when it is real, is not just about noticing the signals. It is about how you engage with them. The first and most crucial principle is balance. Many men make the mistake of overreacting, of chasing too hard when a woman pulls back, or of interpreting every moment of distance as a personal failure. But the truth is, over-attention or desperation only reinforces her caution and obscures the signals you're meant to observe. Emotional balance is the key. Being present without being possessive, showing interest without losing yourself, is what demonstrates both confidence and authenticity. These are the qualities that women unconsciously seek, not perfection, but steady, reliable presence. Patience is not passive, it is a form of action. By resisting the urge to fill every silence, to demand explanations, or to force engagement, you communicate something far more powerful than words can convey. You show that your love and attention are not contingent upon constant validation. You show that you can respect her space, that you can tolerate ambiguity, and that you are willing to meet her at her own emotional pace. This is a rare strength, and it often becomes the foundation of deeper connection and attraction. At the same time, responding wisely requires awareness. Every glance, every smile, every subtle signal she gives is an opportunity to understand her inner world. The man who notices these nuances does not simply wait passively. He engages with intelligence, empathy, and subtlety. He recognizes the difference between distance that signals disinterest and distance that tests devotion. He sees that love is not always declared openly. but often hidden in hesitation, silence, and small gestures of care. Understanding this distinction transforms confusion into clarity, uncertainty into insight. There is also a philosophical depth to this approach. Human relationships are complex systems influenced by history, emotion, and subconscious patterns. Responding thoughtfully to her subtle cues is an exercise in emotional literacy. It is a practice of seeing beyond appearances, of appreciating the layers of thought and feeling that drive behavior. In many ways, it mirrors the broader journey of understanding people in general. To look past what is obvious, to interpret the hidden currents, and to act in a way that honors the full complexity of human experience. The challenge for many men is overcoming ego. It is tempting to interpret her distance as rejection, to react defensively, or to allow insecurity to dictate your actions. But the man who succeeds here rises above immediate impulses. He recognizes that love is not about winning arguments or controlling outcomes. It is about cultivating connection through presence, understanding, and emotional integrity. By responding with measured awareness rather than reactionary emotion, he not only honors her psychology, but also elevates his own character. Another key element is consistency. Women are sensitive to patterns over time. One moment of patience or understanding is not enough to build trust. It is the steady, reliable presence that communicates authenticity. When she tests your attention through temporary withdrawal or delayed responses, your consistent behavior signals that your feelings are genuine. It demonstrates that your commitment is not fickle and that your actions are aligned with your intentions. This consistency is far more persuasive than any words, promises, or declarations of love. It's also worth noting that this approach does not mean passivity or indifference. It is about intelligent engagement, knowing when to step forward and when to give space. The man who can navigate this dynamic shows that he values both his own integrity and her emotional needs. He demonstrates that attraction is not a matter of pressure, but of presence, not of insistence, but of understanding. By aligning action with awareness, he transforms potential frustration into mutual respect and deeper emotional resonance. Ultimately, the way a man responds to subtle love signals shapes the trajectory of the relationship. Ignoring the temptation to chase, to overcompensate, or to seek immediate clarity allows space for genuine connection to emerge. Respecting boundaries, maintaining patience, and reading the nuanced language of attention and affection turns what might appear as indifference into an opportunity for intimacy. The woman who tests through subtle withdrawal is often the one whose heart is most invested, and your response is the measure of your capacity to meet that investment with strength and insight. So, as you reflect on these lessons, understand this. Love is rarely a simple, linear path. It is a dance of presence, awareness, and emotional intelligence. The woman who ignores you is not rejecting you. She is inviting you to rise to the level of understanding she is seeking. The man who responds wisely does not just witness love, he cultivates it. He transforms tests into trust, distance into intimacy, and subtle signals into a profound connection. And never forget this: the measure of your love is revealed not in words or impulsive gestures, but in your ability to act with patience, awareness, and consistency. When you master this, you do more than attract affection. You create a relationship grounded in respect, depth, and lasting emotional resonance. That is the true power of understanding the psychology behind her behavior, and it is the path to a love that endures.